Today, I'm going to be talking about customizing the console part of Worlds, that's the area with the chat box, and things that you can do to customize the add cube and the world map. So, the add cube and the world map are two things that are downloaded when you load into a world like any other, and they can be made into anything that fits the theme of your world. And it's pretty easy to make one. The add cube is for showing logos and such, and the world map is for fast traveling to significant locations if you have a large world. So I'm going to show you how to make each of them. So I'm going to start with the world map because it's a little bit more complicated, and we'll look at the ground zero one to get an idea of what we're looking at. So you can see it's split into 4 sections. The leftmost section is completely black. This is sort of like the fallback default section. So if something goes wrong, it'll show the far left. The second one is the static image that will be shown there. This is like when the user is not interacting with the map at all. The third image is when the mouse is over one of the buttons, and the fourth image is when the mouse is clicked down on one of the buttons. So what we can do is split it up into 4 sections like this, and I'll link this template in the description to make it a little bit easier, but it's basically 4 equally sized squares that would fit into that map section on the console. And so we're going to start by making one button. So I put that as my background layer, and I added a new empty layer on top. So we're just going to use the circle drawing tool to add a button. Then we have to measure the button. So we're going to select this whole square area that encapsulates the button. And in Paint.net, and I assume most other image editors, it'll tell you the selection details at the bottom of the screen here. So it says top left pixel, 1619, bounding rectangle size, 23 by 23. So in our notepad document, we're going to put those numbers, 16, 19, 23, 23. Next, I'm going to add another button of a different size, just to get an idea, so we can have an idea of how this works, and then we're going to measure it again. I'm going to try to make sure the measurement is exactly on top of it as possible, that you can get in a rectangle. And see, now we have the measurement down there. So in our text file, we're going to do a new line. We're going to do 85, 64, 42, 42 for this larger button. And I just want to make a point here that these don't have to be circles or square buttons, or you can make these buttons at any shape, just so long as you can measure the outside border of them in some sort of rectangle when you're done with it. So whatever shape you make it, you're going to have to measure the entire area that contains it as a rectangle. Then once all my buttons are complete, I'm going to select that entire area, and then I'm going to paste it again into each of the new areas. Maybe shouldn't have used red, but we're going to change that in a minute. But we want the buttons to be in the exact same place in each area, so we're going to copy the whole rectangle and make sure each corner is lined up. And then I'm going to put in a new layer here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the map look a little nicer than just these colors. So I'm just going to do a quick little gradient behind it, and this could be whatever image. If you want to make it just a static image, you just paste the image into each of these, and you don't even have to add any buttons, and then you can have a little logo where the map would be. But I think an interactive map is much better. So I'm going to put that background similar to the buttons. I'm going to paste it into each thing over and over, so it's exactly the same. Otherwise, things will change when the buttons are being clicked. You want it to be the same until you intentionally change it. So now we have the 4 sections like we did a minute ago. So the first 2 we're not going to change at all, because this is the first one's the backup default one. We don't want that one to change. The second is the non-interactive one. We don't want that one to change. The third one is going to be the mouse over one. So for the mouse over one, I'm going to make the buttons become darker when the mouse goes over on them. And similar for the last one, for when they're clicked, I want them to be darker when they're moused over. Then for the click one, this very last one, I'm going to move each of them down 2 pixels to give it a little bit of a pushed in effect when it's clicked on. And you can do whatever you want with these. You don't have to recolor. I've done putting an outline on them when they're being moused over, or you can make them glow a little brighter, but for this one I'm just going to make it very simple, move it down just a little bit. And that pretty much takes care of the artist portion of making the map. So we're going to save this as a GIF, and you have to be very careful with what you name it. I'm going to be using the world that I used in my non-Euclidean video, because that already has 2 rooms. That'll make it a little easier. So I'm going to go to where my worlds are, and I'm going to save it as Euclid-map.gif. So it has to be the name of your .world file -map.gif. Now we're going to come back to our notepad file where we measured the buttons in, and we're going to add a new line at the top. And so the only thing that goes on the top line is the number of buttons in our map. So in this case we measured 2 buttons, so we're just going to put a 2 right there. Then for each of the buttons we're going to create a label name. So you can put any name for it with no spaces, but if you use an underscore, it'll be shown as a space in the actual world's client. Then you put 1 dash, and then you put the world's mark to the room you want the button to link to. In this case, mine is going to be a local file, but if you have your world hosted, it's going to be a HTTP link to the .world and then hashtag to the room, much like a world's mark would be. And you can make it a whole world's mark with the XYZ coordinates of where you want to exactly go, but I usually just put it to the room and use the default room entrance location. And then similarly, I'm going to make a label and a link to the second main room. The names of the rooms aren't important for this, but it just matters that it's a world mark that looks like that. Then again, we're going to save it, and like the image, we're going to save it as the name of our world. So in my case, it's Euclid-map, and then .inf. And so make sure it's saved as the same name as your .world file, -map, and make sure it's in the same location as the actual world is. And then just to show you what my worlds folder will look like, this is the map.gif, .inf, and .world all in the same file. So now when we go back into worlds, you'll see that the map is now in the map section, where normally the ground zero navigation would be, or it would be black nothingness if you didn't configure one of these. And you'll see when I mouse over each button, they react to my mouse. When I click down, the little dots move down. And when I actually click on them, I navigate between the 2 rooms. Customizing the add cube is a little bit easier. Each part of the add cube is just a 128 by 128 square. And so I'm going to just make these squares real quick so that we can demonstrate it. So I'm just going to make a couple colors and add a label to each of them. And then I'm going to save each of these as a GIF. I'm going to call them add1 through add4, basically. I'm going to create a folder called ads. And in the ads folder, I'm going to have add1 through add4.gif. And here you can see in the ads folder, I now have 4 images. So then I'm going to go into my world's properties, file world properties, and then I'm going to click on the overall world properties and scroll down to the bottom. You'll see has clickable add cube, and you could change that to true if you want it to be clickable, and it'll send people to wherever you set it to click. It could be your personal page or your Twitter or something like that. Add cube image format, and then you can choose if you want to use a CMP or GIF. I just used GIF so we don't have to go through the whole converting to CMPs here. And then add cube base URL. So this is what we're going to modify, and we're going to paste in the path to our ads folder /add. And so what this is saying is, like, in the ads folder, look for the files that start with add. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to save the world. And now when the add cube rotates around again, it's going to be pulling the images from our add file, and it's a little bit slow. I don't think there's an actual way to speed up the add cube's rotations, but it'll cycle through all 4 of the ads that we pointed that path towards. And that'll do it. That's how to customize the console part of your world with an add cube and a map. I see a lot of worlds that do not take advantage of these 2 things, and you can put a nice logo in the add cube area and a map if you have multiple rooms that you want your users to go through. The map is a very nice navigational tool, and it also adds a little bit of flavor to whatever you're doing. So you can make the map just a list of rooms like I've done, or you can make it into an actual map with a little pathway like I'll show in a future video. Thank you for watching.